Okay, howdy hi, thrill seekers. I'm back again. And I'm going to do another talk on these things that I talked about last time. These are Koben Chino's books about the Heart Sutra and the Platform Sutra. And as I said last time, in case you didn't see, these are from Jikoji, the Zen center that Koben started near Santa Cruz up in Northern California years ago. And Koben was the teacher of my first Zen teacher. Tim McCarthy was Koben's student. I never actually met Koben. I came very close. I had the intention of going on one of his retreats. He was doing retreats in Europe, and I was living in Japan. This is the early 2000s. And I hadn't actually made the final decision, but I was intending to go, and I was looking into all this, and then I heard he passed away, and it's a real tragic thing. I don't want to even go into how he passed away, but it's real sad for me that I never got to meet him. But there are a few books of his available, and as I said last time, both of these are available as downloads from Jikoji, free. And if you write to Jikoji, they will send you the printed books if you want. But they asked for a donation for those, and I really wanted to get them in print, so because I like to read things in print instead of on computer screens. So last time I talked about this one, the Heart Sutra, so this time I'm going to talk about this one, the Platform Sutra. So a little background on the Platform Sutra. The Platform Sutra is attributed to Huineng, who was in the lineage of Bodhidharma, and he is the guy who is supposed to have made Zen really popular in China. But there is a bit of controversy over the Platform Sutra, which it makes me a little reluctant I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what it is. Can't remember exactly which chapter this shows up in Shobo Genzo, but there is a chapter in Shobo Genzo in which Dogen denounces the Platform Sutra. He says the Platform Sutra is not a real sutra, and it contains the word seeing the mind. I think this is how, or seeing the nature. That's how Nishijima Roshi wrote it, and I believe he's translating Kensho. And that's a state of enlightenment, a special state. And because of this, says Dogen, it's not an authentic sutra. The other thing is this is the only sutra, this is the only thing that's called a sutra that was written in China. Usually they reserve the word sutra for things that came from the Indian Buddhist tradition predating China. This one gets the word sutra because the people who put it out and made it popular really wanted to establish Huineng as the teacher, the greatest teacher, and his lineage as the greatest lineage. So that's the controversy surrounding it. It's not clear to me whether Dogen is taking aim at the Platform Sutra itself or at a particular version of the Platform Sutra that was kind of being circulated around Japan at the time. Because there are others who take the Platform Sutra as being authentic, as the authentic teachings of Huineng. And there are places in Shobo Genzo where Dogen references the Platform Sutra without giving a tirade about the Platform Sutra. But if you read the references, he's referencing the Platform Sutra. That's a story that's from the Platform Sutra. So I can't tell what Dogen thought of the Platform Sutra. I did read in Red Pine's book of the Platform Sutra that there are some dubious versions of the Platform Sutra circulating out there which have mixed in other stuff. So I'm going to assume that those are the versions that Dogen was railing against, and not the Platform Sutra itself. So there you go. Anyway, Koben must have liked the Platform Sutra enough to give a series of lectures on it. So that says something to me. And I've recently started reading the Platform Sutra in Red Pine's version, and then I read this one. And this does not contain the entirety of the Platform Sutra. This is based on a version of the Platform Sutra that was available at the time that Koben gave these talks. It says in the early 70s, and this is the version translated by Wing-tsit for St. John's University Press in 1963. So maybe it's a slightly iffy version, and what I'd like to read to you kind of gives you a sense of what Koben felt about this version. He was reading it probably, I assume, in Japanese or maybe even Chinese himself, and then he was referencing this version, this English version, to his students. Here is the bit that Koben is going to talk about here. Section 21. Now that we have taken refuge in the three bodies of the Buddha, let me and you, good and learned friends, take the four very great vows. Good and learned friends, please all follow me and say at the same time, I vow to save an infinite number of beings. I vow to cut off an infinite number of afflictions resulting from passions. I vow to study an infinite number of gates to the law. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. And you'll recognize that as the four bodhisattva vows if you've been following this channel, and in one of my videos, I think last week, I talked about those, but I gave you a very different version. This translation, he tends to translate the word dharma as law with a capital L, so that makes it a little confusing if you don't know what that is about. And the quote goes on. Good and learned friends, when we make our vows to save an infinite number of living beings, it does not mean for me to save them. This is kind of what I was talking about in the previous video, not previous, but a couple of days ago, or whenever it was last week. Good and learned friends, all living beings are in the mind. Each must save itself in its own body and through its own nature. What is meant by saving oneself through one's nature? In one's own physical body, there are perverse views, afflictions, resulting from passions, ignorance, delusion, and erroneous thoughts. Everyone possesses the nature of original enlightenment. Everyone can save himself with correct views. So this is the bit that Koben is going to talk about, and I'm going to read you what he says about it. And it's a bit long, but let's enjoy it. There are some differences between this version and our version, so he's kind of already complaining. The first vow is the same. The second vow in our version is, desires are inexhaustible, I vow to put an end to them. The feeling is like when you sit in the sunshine and receive the sunlight into your body, a feeling of infinity, a feeling that even if you sit there a year, your whole life, the sun will continue to shine. It's the feeling of the sound of waves at the beach, never ending. Infinite is a very good translation. The third vow in our version is Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to master them. The fourth vow in our version is Buddha's way is unsurpassable, I vow to attain it. It sets up a paradox, like a sportsman's record where this year another one will come and surpass it. The Chinese character is more complete. Accomplish. In Chinese there is no subject. In English we say, I vow to surpass it. Now, he says, Koben says, I would translate this gata, and here's where he gets weird. Sentient beings are infinite, they will save themselves. Desires are infinite, they will reach an end by themselves. Dharmas are infinite, so there is learning, study. Buddha's way is no above. That's his Japanese style English. There's nothing above Buddha's way. So it is always accomplished or allowed. Usually the sixth patriarch, that's Huineng, didn't say this. It is called the four bodhisattva vows. We have to think about the person's mind when he takes this vow. If I am not a sentient being, I cannot take this vow. If I am not with desire, I cannot take this vow. The subject is a sentient being, itself, passion, itself, dharma, itself, road, the way, itself, Buddha's way. Okay. If the road itself has some choice, saying you can walk on me or you can't walk on me, then the vow cannot be completed. If the road says anything can walk or ride on me, the vow is completed. It is absolute. When we think of this vow, we have to think of karma. As one student said, to repeat this vow every day is a paradoxical activity. Yet the vow goes by itself, and we just decide it is paradoxical, even more than paradoxical. What is important is whether I can consider myself a sentient being or part of a sentient being. I have limitless desires. I put an end to them. It's like sweeping fallen leaves. 1 hour later, more leaves come. Winter brings snow, spring, dust. When awareness is only on the sweeping, maybe you hate it. Maybe you hate the fallen leaf. Even if people's desires are like that, we cannot say it's bad. It's a very delicate point, whether we vow or not. It's a big change in the karmic cycle of life. The spot where we are becomes a standard of measurement. The karmic life has many burdens. It's a caught state, a heavy feeling. The Chinese word for vow is yang. I have yang. means I have an objective. It's not a promise. It's a determination to offer my whole effort, to take care of yourself, myself. In this vow is the thing to do. For instance, when I have a sick friend, I take a vow in myself to not forget him, always be with him, even if we are separated, to always keep real friendship between us. It works really well. When a mother has a sick baby, that feeling is instinctively understood. The basis of the vow is a very natural feeling, not artificial. I am fine, he is not fine, I have to take care of him. And then skipping along a little bit, he says, the word save I don't understand so well. In Japanese, do is like a sailor carrying a passenger from this shore to the other shore. He himself doesn't go there. The bodhisattva's vow is very paradoxical. It's like I don't need to attain the way because I'm always there. But many beings need to have this opportunity. But when I, that's in quotes, becomes visible and static, I think, this is me, they are not me. At this time, it's very hard to understand what is the vow. When I say all sentient beings, my feeling is all the selves of me. When I reach toward some place and only my finger touches it, at that time my whole body is there. In the beginning, Shakyamuni Buddha had nothing to do for all sentient beings because they are there already and they are already enlightened. If your son says, I want to do this, you trust him. Let him go ahead even if you are worried. You tell him, you can do whatever you want. That kind of feeling is like the sixth patriarch saying, they can save themselves. The vow is not only toward the future. When you vow, you say it in the past too. Not only your personal past, but the whole thing, which relates to you, will be saved. The vow is like putting a light in a dark room. We have done it many times. It is not an act of will. It naturally happens. Vowing is remembering, renewing. When you practice, that practice saves 7 past lives, your father and mother, their fathers and mothers, but even if all of them are enlightened, as long as we keep ignorance, we have to be in ignorance. With the vow, the light of the present reaches to past activity. Historians have eyes which reach the past in very interesting ways. Actually, all of us have the eye which can remember past lives. We don't need to talk about it, but we have very huge experiences in the past. So there you go. That's what he says, and I kind of went on long, so I won't do too much commentary on it. I just think this is really interesting stuff, and since it comes from my first teacher's teacher, it's real valuable, and I like it a lot. So that's it. Remember that I get my way of making a living from your donations, and I make circly movements with my hand, and I really appreciate that, and that is my only way of making a living, so I appreciate those of you who can keep sending stuff in. But if you're having financial trouble, just don't even do it. Just don't even think about sending me a donation. Just keep it for yourself and be fine and be happy. But those of you who contribute really help me a lot, so I thank you a lot, and we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey, Ziggy. How you doing? You tired? You been doing zoomies? Oh, you don't like the computer. How you doing, buddy? Make a nice cameo for the people.